Good afternoon. This is the House Appropriations Committee. It's Tuesday, May 12th, 2026, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And we are here with Douglas Farnham, Chief Recovery Officer, to get an update on the ARPA funds and how all that's going, because the deadline's coming up. And Doug, you had some report that was due, so now you have information you can share with us. So welcome.
Thank you for having me, Madam Chair. I really appreciate it. For the record, Douglas Farnham, Chief Recovery Officer. Madam Chair, would it be okay if I did just a brief recap in case anyone's just watching this?
Absolutely.
So the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 allocated a broad-based grant to every state in the country and also local municipalities. The state portion of that money, the state and local fiscal relief funds, was 1.04 billion, 1.049 billion, and the local fiscal recovery was just over 100 million, 120 million, I believe. And that local fiscal recovery portion doesn't show up on this. That was, the state acted as a check processor essentially, and every municipality now has a direct relationship with the US Treasury. And I think most of the activity on those local fiscal recovery funds has passed at this point. Most of those funds have been gone through, but we do still see activity that there are still municipalities in Vermont that are spending that money and that are filing reports with the Treasury once a year. They only have to file once a year. The state, for our $1 billion portion, has to file quarterly. And we had an annual performance requirement. The last year we were required to do that in was 2024. US Treasury eliminated that annual performance report requirement in 2025. And so we won't be doing one in 2026. If anyone ends up wanting to look for that, it was an extremely time-consuming report, so we are not going to be producing it independently. But it did have a lot of good consolidated information about how the programs were running.
And would that be difficult for you to continue updating?
We might be able to produce an abbreviated version of that report, Madam Chair. But to take on the full report as it was constructed for US Treasury, that would probably be overkill.
Yeah.
But a version of that we might be able to do.
Okay. I'm not looking to make a lot of work for you. I was just curious based on what you just said.
Yes. I think the main difference is that the quarterly reports don't have performance measures in them. And I believe the programs are all still tracking and maintaining their performance measures that were created at the beginning. So we might be able to produce just a performance measure related report without too much extra effort, but I haven't checked into that recently.
Right. That might be something of interest if we're talking about performance measures, if we've been spending all this money. So don't lose sight of that possibility.
Right. And so, for example, water and housing, those were some of the broad categories that ARPA was eligible for. So a lot of our performance measures are related to housing units created or additional hookups for a water system, or even connections for a water system that are preserved, because some of the programs help remediate deficiencies in municipal water systems. And so that's also worth tracking. So this was transmitted only today because the report was being compiled and we converted it into a PDF this morning.
Hot off the press.
Yeah, hot off the press. It's a 15-page PDF, and the first 7 pages are a table of all of the programs that were created under the American Rescue Plan Act with those dollars. And then some of those and it shows both the ARPA money and any general fund money that was put back into a program to restore ARPA money that was put against another obligation, right? So this gives you basically an idea of the full scope of the 1.049 billion and where we are on both how much ARPA is left to expend for those programs and how much general fund is left to expend. I won't spend a lot of time on this. It is a useful resource for committee members, but there is a lot in there. The main thing of concern for this year, because we have a due date coming up on 12/31/2026, to have all of our expenditures complete.
Right.
And that also, for state bureaucrats, there's a lot of nuance there that's very challenging that the committee should be aware of. It doesn't mean that we can just have a check sent or that the work is done.
Yeah.
The entire bureaucratic process has to be complete, meaning the work has to be complete, then the invoice has to be received, then the check has to get sent, then we have to, well, right before we send the check, we verify the invoice and that the work was complete. So that check getting sent at the last part, if everyone's doing everything properly in proper sequence, that will satisfy US Treasury, as long as that happens before 12/31/2026. In some of our processes, it can sometimes be 2, 3, or even more months lag after the work is completed before an invoice is received, and then another 30 days for the state to process the payment. We don't normally dwell on those administrative trivial details, but when millions of dollars are on the table, the timing can matter.
Yes, absolutely. Wait, question?
And that's because contractors were just not getting paid.
So some of our contracting structures are somewhat complicated, like the work may be being performed for Forest Parks and Recreation, but the contractor is actually employed by the Agency of Digital Services. So the contractor performs the work, then they send the invoice to FPR. FPR reviews and approves the invoice, says, okay, we'll forward it on to Agency of Digital Services. They're okay with it. Then it has another 30 days before it gets processed. So I think the complexity of some of our multi-agency structures can slow things down. And that was one of the things I looked for in 2024 when attempting to reduce risk and spend funds down in different programs. But we do still have a couple of ARPA programs that are in those more complicated areas. Pages 8 through 13 of the package deal specifically with the ARPA state and local fiscal recovery funds. And one of my deficiencies is that I tend to brush by things and not necessarily celebrate success. If you look at the number of blank spaces, the rows with just the check mark or the dash on them, those are all programs that were created in 21 and 22 by the legislature that have successfully completed. So the vast majority of the programs created by the legislature during those two sessions, well, during that one session, the two sessions of the General Assembly, many of them have completed. So we have spent out of the 1.049 billion, we've spent all but $63 million at this point. So we are reaching substantial completion from a macro perspective. And I think that is a huge accomplishment by hundreds, probably not quite thousands, but high hundreds of state staff and municipal staff are involved in a lot of these programs. So it's been a huge effort over the last 5 years to move that money out.
It is pretty amazing that people came together and did all this work. It's quite astonishing. And some of it, go ahead, Marty.
Well, I'm just confused. The first 7 pages are items that are still not completed, whereas the last group are all of the items, or?
Apologies.
Understand.
So the first 7 pages show everything together. If it was a program that was created due to the American Rescue Plan Act, it'll show up in those 7 pages. And the amount of general fund still remaining to that program and the amount of ARPA state local fiscal recovery funds will show up. So that's a full view of all the programs, whether they're still considered federally funded or whether they're one-time general funded at this point.
It includes the completed ones also.
Yes, yes. All of these categories do have the completed. One thing that might have made some of this easier to absorb is to produce one version that had only the open programs on it.
Right.
Because that would have dramatically trimmed down the list. And that would probably be about a 4 or 5 page PDF if you trimmed it down to just the programs that are still open.
But if we look on page 1,
Yes.
sort of in the middle is the Community Recovery Grant and Revitalization Program. So that was one of the ones that we converted some to general fund.
Yes,
And yet there's still 8.3 million in general fund that they haven't spent, right? So there's nothing that we need to return to the federal government because it's general fund?
correct. That program was largely converted because that program was designed to invest in real property owned by businesses. It could be owned by municipalities as well, but it had a number of businesses and childcare businesses. It was an economic recovery program and a childcare program. And if you invest federal funds in real property, then you must monitor that, and you have requirements on that for about 20 years. So that's one reason we converted that to a general fund program, was to relieve those uniform guidance requirements.
So there's still $8.3 million left in that program. And are there specific plans for that money?
I believe that all of that is awarded, and because these are a lot of them are capital construction projects.
Yep.
I think that that program is still moving along pretty well. We did expect it to take a little bit longer to expend based on the nature of the program.
So we could get a list of the projects for whom that 8.3 is supposed to go to from ACCD?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, well, I would like to do that, so we'll work
I
on
don't know
that.
if you got that quite right. It says GF expended as of 301, so that's how much they spent. Looks
Actually,
like
it's 10 million is
it's
left.
10 million, right?
Pardon me,
Yeah,
good catch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, it's just over 10 million remaining in general fund.
okay, so we want to find out what that's for.
But again, those general fund items do not have to meet this deadline of 12/31.
Correct. There is a legislative deadline, but a state legislative deadline for those to be obligated by 12/31/2027 or automatically reverted. And my understanding is that these are all obligated at this point. But I have not, because I've been focused on the federally funded programs,
Sure.
I haven't been monitoring the general fund expenditures as closely.
So if it's general fund money, if it's been obligated but not spent, it could be reverted and re-obligated to something else?
Yes, state awards all are required to include attachment C, which includes terms saying that if the appropriation underlying or supporting the award is reverted, then the award will be canceled without penalty, right? So
So we get to keep our general fund money.
it is general fund money.
Yeah.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yes.
You know
And
what I'm
it
thinking.
would flow back in next January.
Right, well, or whenever, yes, okay.
Would you like to walk through those first 7
Well, there
slides?
may be, I don't think we need to walk through all of them. I mean, I just was looking back because it seemed like it was a lot of money and we were talking about general fund. You know, I guess if people have particular questions, John?
Yeah, I'm just skipping a couple of pages, add to page 3.
Mhm.
Reading this correctly here. So practical nurse program. Money's dedicated to that. There's an appropriation, so the 100%, does that mean there's 100% still remaining?
We
At
haven't,
this point,
we haven't seen any movement in that general fund since the conversion in December of 2024.
So if we want to find out more, how do we find out more?
yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Thing.
Do we just compile our the things about which we have questions and send that to you, or?
Yeah, I'm happy
Yeah.
to help.
So that says Vermont State Colleges.
Right,
Mhm.
right, it does.
So I would think that people who are trustees might have access to the right people who know the answer.
Well, so that's a good example for the state colleges appropriations.
Yeah.
That is through a grant agreement from Agency of Administration. So that would definitely be one that if you have questions, AOA should be the one to dig in and figure out. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm looking to more priority capital projects and government priority, blah, blah, blah. That the bottom two is yet another
Another area.
4.7 and million plus the 10 million on the other side, we're talking
They're from the
18
same,
million.
same act. Well, no, they're from two different.
They're
acts.
different
They have the
acts,
same-
Same program.
But they have millions outstanding.
Yes.
Right.
So we can go to ACCD and get that information.
Yes, I'm happy to help gather information from programs, but if you have questions about specific progress on projects, they're going to be better able to give you the
Right.
details.
Yeah. So we can do that. But we'll let you know if we have any trouble.
And then I'm not intending to dig into the general fund programs at this point in time, but,
Okay, that's fine.
oh, no, I'm sorry. That came out poorly. I'm happy to discuss all of this with you right now. Over the next 2 months, I will be meeting with every program that has remaining ARPA funds,
Mhm.
the state fiscal funds,
Yeah.
to talk about where they are, what their expenditure plans are, make sure we have a good plan for closeout. So I'm doing a status meeting with every single ARPA program that's still operational in the next 2
So
months.
that's the priority, and that's the second batch of pages that we should be looking at.
Yes, and that is mixed in with the first 7 pages, but it is just ARPA programs on page 8 through 13.
Okay, so we should focus on that and congratulate you for all the ones that are done.
And so, again, with the completed program still in here, there's a lot of blank space. But the landscape hasn't changed dramatically. We did have a fairly solid amount of expenditure. But for the first quarter, it's not a construction season
Right.
primarily. So we didn't expect to see a major spike in expenditures. And so the roughly, I think it was 12.6 million that we saw expended. I would love to have seen more, but it's right around what I expected to see.
So we're not worried about most of it's wastewater and clean water. And I mean, that's a large chunk of it.
There's 2 big chunks, Madam Chair.
Yeah,
There's 4 or 5 programs that have significant amounts of funding left at A&R DEC.
yeah.
And I've been working on scheduling the meeting with them. We don't have it on the calendar yet, but we're going to meet and discuss their closeout. What we had done was Agency of Administration, because we're the prime recipient of the federal award, we told all the programs that you have to have your sub-awards done by June 30th of 2026. So that you'd have time to do all of that bureaucratic process I referred to earlier, and the closeout would go okay. A&R has flagged for us that things are going well, but they anticipate some of their sub-awards might need another 3 months. And so anything we extend past June 30th is going to get riskier and riskier
Yes.
and going to need to be monitored.
Right.
So we are going to be looking into options. One of the things that we do receive policy support from Guidehouse, because we established that at the beginning of the pandemic.
Right.
And they support about 21 other states in administration of their state fiscal recovery programs.
Mhm.
And there is still an option to reallocate ARPA funds at this point in time. It has to go to existing obligations. And we did establish some payroll obligations for the state, just in case we needed them.
Yeah, okay.
Now, unlike 2024, when AOA was able to apply funds, take general fund and move it back, we no longer have that authority at AOA to do that internally. And the Joint Fiscal Committee has to approve any reallocations that we recommend this year.
Mhm.
There will likely be recommended reallocations from AOA in the summer. And we're going to try to avoid them, but likely in November and potentially December, really hoping to avoid that.
Yeah,
I would like to mitigate as much risk as possible in the July-August timeframe.
Mhm.
But the thing there is the Joint Fiscal Committee can approve the reallocation of the ARPA funds. So say we identify funds that are not going to get spent, 5 million of funds. And AOA says, these are the payroll, eligible payroll around the state of Vermont that we recommend these federal funds be applied to. Joint Fiscal Committee approves that. That's as far as it can go before the Budget Adjustment Act. So it would create general fund availability for the Budget Adjustment Act, but it would not be actionable until the General Assembly is back in the spring.
Right.
So if it was related to an award, even if there was an intent to give that money back to the program, it would interrupt the award.
They would have to pause until the General Assembly came back.
Yes.
Well, and some of the clean water and wastewater things maybe can be delayed.
Right.
Some other things maybe can't. Right.
And that's why we want to talk about each project
Yeah.
in every program
Right.
as it's going into the fall. Does it have all the permits? Is construction going to complete?
Okay.
And if not, we might need to recommend pulling the funding. And then it would be up to the legislature if they want to restore the funding for that award, or if there is a different higher priority
Right.
in state government.
Okay. It's very interesting. Wayne, go ahead.
So what's the time frame? When will you know, the 31st or shortly after the 31st, you'll have an accounting of everything that was spent, what stayed on the table, what might have to get reverted of the ARPA money back, or what money might be still there that you could reapply for payroll. And that you have to, can you expend or obligate that money for payroll before the end of it?
That is very easy. I know that we have the payroll capacity we might not have the capacity to do all 60 million, but we wouldn't even need to at this point. 14 million of the 63 million is with the broadband board, and they're highly confident. I'm going to ask to see the receipts, but they're highly confident that their projects are in line and that they're going to be able to expend. And they've already expended 135 million. So they have a good track record as far as expending another 14 million in the last year. So that leaves us down to 45 million that's at play across a number of programs, I think 20 to 30 programs. And the concentration, the biggest conversation is going to be with ANRDC, and it is on the wet weather sewer overflow. That is on page 10, halfway through. That program still has 18 million.
You talk to them, I keep asking, I'd really like to know what the nature of the holdup is it in contracting, not being able to.
Oh, yeah, that was one of the ones I had highlighted. And you said that was where? Is that a project or a bunch of projects?
It's in a large number of projects, but I think there are a couple very large projects that would, if they move forward, would take up a good amount of that funding. So that's definitely a program where I'll be going through all of their awards, talking through status on every single project they're looking to fund.
Right, and those are bigger than village wastewater's 4.5 million, but, which sounds small, but it's village, so they're small, so those are, yeah,
But is
those
it-
are pretty important to be doing these
Is it
things.
permitting, is it contracting, or is it lack of manpower to the contractors, what's the?
I've seen all of those reasons for different projects at this point. So I think it varies by town. And that's going to be the hardest, honestly, for the administration to recommend pulling funds from a project that we want to see happen, but may not have evidence that it's likely to happen.
Some of the ones we need to happen the most.
Right. So the first round that we're going to look at is, sorry.
No, good.
The first round that we're going to be looking at right now and talking with the agencies about is based on this current data. We're going to look for projects where they agree everything at this point points to, despite our best efforts, we're not going to be able to finish it this year. So we agree to a reversion, and those will be compiled by AOA and presented to the Joint Fiscal Committee.
Okay, and you're hoping to do that at the July meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I've referred to it as the less nice round, where before the September timeframe, reallocations have to be done within the quarter. If you have unallocated funds, Treasury takes those back. So we need to identify reallocations in the first month of a quarter. So in the July meeting, And then we need the August and September timeframe to complete those allocations and make sure all our paperwork is updated and
Yeah,
we don't end up sending funds back to Treasury on a technicality. Because
right.
they will take back millions of dollars based on a lack of a signature.
Yes, we don't want that to happen and we
Right.
won't. We're rooting for you to do it. We know you're capable of doing that, but it's the detail work is something else. I think, John, did you have another question?
Yeah, this was on the last couple of pages. There's
Yes.
a number of programs there that obviously have not. I mean, some have done quite well. There's not much remaining for sure. The last page, I'm just looking at like Public Service Department, Efficiency Vermont. They overspent, but that would be a circumstance where perhaps if another area doesn't quite spend what they were allowed to, then pick that up.
So
Or is that?
I've been checking into the areas that where it appears from the reporting that they overexpended. It didn't show up in the federal reporting as overexpended. It showed up in Vision as overexpended, and that's just because of the way the data was pulled. There was not an actual overexpenditure on those programs. It's just accounting and journal entries, and it shows up funny.
Because it was obvious.
Yes,
At least recorded as an overexpenditure.
right. Most of our systems are designed for programs to be measured on a single fiscal year basis. And because these are multiple fiscal year programs, when you try to pull a report on them, you can run into issues where the system doesn't represent it properly.
And then just some that haven't spent 80% of what was
Right.
allocated to a particular program. So
Right.
here it is, it's May.
Yeah, so Doug, when I look on page 11, we're in budget session, I'm looking at money.
Yep.
About 2/3 of the way down is Clean Water Flood Resilient Communities Program, 1.983 million unspent.
Mhm.
Do we know what that's for off the top of your head?
Yes, some of those are going to buyout, some of it's going to floodplain restoration projects.
Okay.
The last time I checked up on, and I approved some reallocations a month or two ago between various projects.
Okay,
They're still on track to spend that. Partially because if you look at it, they started out with, 19.6.
Oh, yeah.
They're down to 10% of their program. So they're kind of cleaning up the last couple projects at this point.
because I'm looking at floods that happened in the Northeast Kingdom and,
Right.
I'm looking everywhere for money here.
I think part of that is, some of that might be tied up as match for federal projects that are finished.
That's why I wanted to,
Yep.
I'm not spending it yet, I'm just looking. Okay, thank you. And then the other one on the next page, just a question on page 12, almost halfway down, the Tech Mod Fund, Case Management System Upgrade.
Yes,
1.7 million and they have 1.5 left.
I'm definitely going to be checking up on that program because it's not always just the dollar amount, but the percentage. At this point, it's hard to picture without a conversation with them how they could possibly spend over 80% of their appropriation down in the final 6 months. It's possible though, based on if they design their deliverables in a certain way.
Is this the DCF case management?
No, this is states attorneys and sheriffs.
Oh, states, I'm sorry. I
Yes.
just glossed right over that. Okay.
Let's say the billing.
Yeah, and there's also 2 million in the VDOL UI platform modernization.
Yeah,
Last time I checked, that project was still progressing on time, on budget, and
yeah.
it might just be that they haven't hit the major milestone for delivery of funds to the vendor. So that's definitely one I'm going to be checking on because they're, still about 40% unexpended at this point.
And then I see broadband is a big, it's 15 million. Is that, we just waiting for something or what's going on there? Do you know?
So I'm going to get many more details because even though they have a good track record, 14.7 million is quite a bit. But when I spoke with the broadband staff on Monday, they were confident they'd be able to show me the targeted completion dates and when they expect to pay out. And that
Good.
for them, they just started hitting the road and we've also had a cold spring. So they're starting to get into it now. And
They are done the circuit of my district and they're out every day, like
Yeah.
happens too.
so they're pretty confident their July report will look really good.
Okay,
I'll look better.
great.
Cycles, so the ground soft is good.
Yeah, but the hard part with the broadband board, I do have confidence in their ability to spend money. But they have 95 million from ARPA capital projects. They had, this 15 million left, and then they have over 100 million of the BEAD funds that they're working on. So they're working on a lot of federal funds right now. Well over
Right.
200 million.
Yes. You need it. This case management is obligated, but it's obviously not expended yet. This is part of, but
Oh,
the case management system you brought up that has 1.5 yet to
so they
expend.
had to obligate everything. It was the expended part. They had to obligate everything by the end of December of 24.
Yes.
So that all should be 100% of the obligated.
Right.
But the expended is the part
Yeah,
that I'm
right.
concerned about. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was surprised to see the missing middle, program.
Tell us what page you're on.
I'm sorry, I'm on page 6. Bottom, it's second from the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know anything about that, Doug?
Oh, yeah, that is one I have not been tracking because we converted it to general fund. Mostly because the federal requirements didn't align very well with the missing middle program and would have resulted in those real property uniform guidance requirements. So that's why we swapped it to general fund. So I haven't checked in with that program in quite some time.
Okay,
State general funds, because I've got the case management over here on ARPA funds that are expended to the state funds.
Right, the state funds have not been expended. Yes. But it'd be interesting to know that,
Right.
Yeah, I think that's,
well, there wasn't any general fund expenditure on this tech mod fund.
I think one,
That had both general fund and non-general fund
Okay, you're right.
expenditures.
These are separate. I'm sorry, I need to
We're just
understand this report.
getting reoriented, I know.
yeah,
Your reports are different than other reports we see, but it's very helpful. I like the colors.
Yeah,
Okay, and so that gets us through like page 13, and then there's a couple more pages.
yes, the last 2 pages are just specifically the general fund status.
Oh, okay.
So if you're looking to drill into just general fund remaining to be expended, that is all captured on these last 2 pages.
Okay. Oh, that's really helpful.
okay,
This is duplicative of the general fund that shows up in the first.
Right.
gotcha.
Except you have the column that I wanted, which is dollars to be expended.
Yes,
That's the most important column.
yes, it is.
So now we have lots more. Yeah, so if we look at ACCD, with those community priority capital projects, we have like $19 million unexpended.
Yes. Yeah, in December of 2024, we converted about 242 million of ARPA program activity to general fund activity. And since that conversion in about a year and a half, about 100 million of it has been expended. Some of it was already expended when we did the conversion, but
Yeah,
um,
and they also have the 7 points for housing in this middle. Okay, this
Okay,
is
but-
really helpful to see this way.
This GF to be expended, is there a deadline on that? Is that the
as far as expenditure, there's no
deadline?
existing statutory deadline.
I think it would beg to differ.
Well,
Because last year in the budget, James was not here, but Emily was, but we put something in about funds that were related to these projects that were not ARPA money, but were general fund. They had to expend them by like December of 2027. We gave it like an extra year. So it wasn't out there in perpetuity. And then we were going to call it back. And I don't remember the exact date, but you know what I'm talking about.
yes, Madam Chair, the exact language is that as of 12/31/2027, the money has to be obligated or it will be automatically reverted. There was no language about expenditure in that deadline. I think there was an intent to begin setting deadlines around expenditure. But there's no automatic reversion based on expenditure.
Expenditure. Okay,
So that might
we
roll
may
in
want to do something.
some of these.
Yeah.
All of them,
About that.
Perhaps, or some.
Oh, no, James knows now.
Currently, The administration, based on the original legislative intent of these programs, has been approving like automatic carry forwards with this. We've created depth IDs and the administration has allowed these programs to roll forward. So kind of outside of the normal carry forward process. And we'll likely continue to do that unless the legislature gives us different direction. And what you're saying, Madam Chair, about the 12/31/2027, I think is a clear signaling that these programs have to start expending or come to an end. But I don't think.
Tens of millions of dollars out there just cause.
Right,
We have ways to spend it.
right.
There's.
And it's not stated. But from my perspective, and I've been advising programs to make sure you're spending the ARPA state fiscal first.
Right, exactly.
But I have been telling people that the intent signaled by the 12/31/2027 language to me reads, there should not be assumed to be an automatic carry forward from FY28.
That's right. Yep.
That was the between the lines, Madam Chair.
Thank you for reading so well. And we'll probably do some clarifying now that we're getting closer to real dates here.
Yes, I think FY28 BAA might be a good time to add clarity to that,
Or even before,
or even before.
So they have time to, I mean, some of these, and again, a lot of it's clean water related stuff, but MERP, Community Capacity Building Grants for 28 million. I don't know what that is.
Municipal Energy Resilience Program.
Oh, no,
Sure.
Grants all the towns.
For energy work.
Periods.
Energy resilience projects, okay. But that's $29 million. $27 million that hasn't been spent. I know
Great.
that's not your problem right now, but I'm.
Well, the programs within AOA, I have been keeping a closer eye on. And there is, I believe, an outstanding question of, there was clearly an intent to allow those programs to try to expend awards, that were generated in the first round.
Yeah.
But I have gotten the question about reallocations of those general fund programs. And my guidance to this point has been, we don't have a clear answer yet. But at some point, I don't think reallocations are going to be allowed to continue, right? Like.
Correct. Go ahead.
And that one we were just talking about, what's that? Insulating houses and that sort of thing? It's not home.
But for municipal offices. Yeah, so,
Municipal offices.
so fire departments,
Right.
town offices, adding solar panels, but mostly heat pumps, insulation, efficiency measures, replacing oil furnaces. Been a lot of it.
And likely won't all be spent.
And that was a program that would not have been possible under the standard federal guidance, so we converted it.
John?
When all the towns were awarded this, and trying to get going on this, there was a lag time there just in terms of lining up contractors. Just with my survey of the towns in my area, since I have like 9 of those towns, and just took time to kind of get that stuff going. And some of the projects are relatively small.
Yeah.
Right. They have a small town building. It's not much bigger than bigger than a 2-bedroom house here for the most part. I'm talking about Brunswick, and it just took time to get that work to be determined.
Right.
Replace the front door and the back door and, new lights and that kind of stuff. So some are still struggling with that.
Yes. Especially in the energy sector.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. One of the things that we had, speaking about the small towns that John represents, is that we had that technical rural advice,
Through VRCD, yeah.
that we got from ACCD, I believe. Anyway, it was money that we put aside for that to help them come up with projects and get the workforce, the work power and
Yeah.
the support that they could do it. So they weren't going to be these 3-member boards that were going to try to do it all on their own with nothing else. Did that turn out to be successful in this whole effort? I mean, it was there was money, sometimes controversial, but we did do it.
I think overall it was certainly helpful because the regional planning commissions, and I think the regional planning commissions were heavily involved in the technical support for this program. I think it was helpful because they know the needs of their area better than pretty much anyone else aside from the specific communities. I also think it's introduced an odd layer where even when you're talking about reallocations, they're like, well, should reallocations go back to our region if one of our towns got the original award? It's like, well, no, that's not the way it should work. And I'm also not even fully confident that the legislature intended for reallocations to be happening at this point in time. So I think it was helpful, but it brought more people to the table and it brought like more perspectives, which leads to more complicated conversations, I guess I would say. But overall, we have seen a lot of good work done in the municipalities, which will result in cost savings going forward. So that's going to be helpful for a lot of small communities. And I don't think would have been able to do as much without that additional support.
Thank you.
Right?
So is everything there again has to be obligated by a certain period of time? So it's not as if they could be coming up with new projects at any time before the end of this.
With the general fund projects, that is a little bit, so ARPA projects, you cannot create any new ARPA projects. But for the general fund programs, there's authorizing statutory language, and then it's silent on that kind of ongoing creation of new projects. So I think it's silent right now. And I think since it's silent, programs are currently able to award new projects until the appropriation is taken away from them or until the General Assembly decides to give them clarity and say, no new projects after this date. So with the general fund, they can continue to do new awards, which was not discussed to my knowledge over the last couple of years.
Repurposing money. Well, we've been in a different place.
Exactly.
Now we're
Right.
running up on deadlines and we're seeing what's actually being spent and what isn't being spent. So it's a lot easier. We have more information in which to make decisions than we had a year ago, for sure. Lynn?
Okay, I'm looking at some of these things that seem to have a lot of money left, mostly general fund, but on this page 14, you have so AHS, Workforce Recruitment Retention Incentive Grant Program. You have the Nurse Preceptor Incentive Grants, which hardly look like they were used at all. Nursing Pipeline Apprenticeship, Nursing Faculty Forgivable Loan, Nurse Faculty Loan Forgiveness. And there are some on the beginning parts that also has, some of the loans and the nurse faculty loan repayment, mental health, things that were actually part of like the educational, higher education, BSc or AHS. Practical nurse program seems to have a lot of money that never got used. Workforce upskill jobs, apparently we used all that. Critical occupations. What is all those have a lot in common, and what was the barrier to getting the money out? Or did you ever know?
At that, I unfortunately don't know. With those programs, I haven't monitored them for the last year, to be honest.
Yeah, because when you came in last session, 2 or 3 years ago, you said that, for instance, looking at all of these things and who had a lot of money left,
Mhm.
The VST, which had a lot of these programs, had like expended or was all set with like 93% of the money early on. And so they really were way ahead of the curve.
Right.
And I'm just curious, these AHS things or Department of Health, they just seem to be kind of not moving.
I would, just based on just seeing the numbers and vision, I would agree that I haven't seen much movement out of them. I haven't asked AHS for a status report on those. Simply because we're not at risk of losing the funds to the feds. So I've been focusing on
Other
the
things.
federal
Yeah.
funds, yeah.
Well, I just, I'm wondering, 2022 seems so long ago. And so I don't, I'm
That's been asked
here,
for a while.
but I might not remember exactly what we were supposed to have spent the money on and what the expectation was and what we have lost in not doing them and not spending the money down. It's, there was an intention behind the appropriation, right? And, or the repurposing, whatever it was, and to accomplish some particular thing. And I'm just wondering how we can know what we have not accomplished, in advancing this priority or that priority. Just talking about the numbers is one thing, but I don't know how it translates into policy goals and, what capacity we haven't developed or, and still remains, versus what we have been able to develop.
Right. Right, I do know, along those lines, the last time I checked in with some of those nursing programs, some of the expenditure rate was related to just lack of uptake. They were offering these, they were trying to recruit more nurses, and we just weren't getting it, partially because of the dynamics with traveling nurses and the fact that the traveling nurse structure creates pretty extreme financial incentives for nurses to stay in that status if they don't have roots in a particular area. So the fact that these numbers haven't moved much since then, to me, leads me to believe that there's still some challenges like on the recruitment side. But I think we did expect when we did the conversion at the end of 2024, I did expect some of this general fund money to stagnate where it overlaps with a department that's spending their federal funds first. But some of these don't overlap with federal, continued federal programs. So that certainly doesn't explain all the situations.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily talking about the nurses or it's
Yeah.
just getting, it's so hard, and I cannot appreciate how complicated your job is and how difficult it is even to track these things, and to get money out. That said, I just, we will make reference sometimes to, well, we invested in,
Right.
workforce development in these fields and this is part of the picture in terms of, well, how well are we doing? And it's been difficult to know how our workforce investment dollars have been paid out, but also other things. I think we get other housing updates, so that's pretty clear, I think, but some of these other things are just, where we've lagged, what does that actually mean for us?
So one thing I can offer the committee is that, as I said before, I'm meeting with every program that has outstanding ARPA in the next 2 months. I can ask any of those programs that are also spending general fund for progress updates at the same time. Since I'll be collecting information, it won't add any extra effort to collect where they are on their general fund at the same time. And then I intend to meet with every program that expended ARPA dollars before the end of the calendar year to make sure there are no closeout surprises. And so I can include the general fund programs in that effort before the end of the calendar year and try to bring that information into the next session. I think nothing should prevent you from asking specific programs to explain what's going on, but I will compile that full picture for next legislative session. Just seems appropriate with ARPA closing out.
And what's been great is that you've been the person there, the point person right from the beginning. So you have all that institutional knowledge. And you probably
didn't
knew
expect-
about these numbers and these projects.
He's got 90s for
Okay, any other questions for Doug?
So in the meantime, all this unexpended money is sitting in our bank account?
Let me see, what did we have? Yes, earning interest, we've done rather well, but it's general fund interest, so it flows into that overall number, which has been added to the forecast in the last couple of years because it's substantive now when it wasn't before. One thing to call attention to, I did see much more activity in the last quarter on the general fund side than in prior quarters. If you look at the January, February, March's totals, it's right around 26 million of general fund that was expended in these programs in the last quarter. And there were prior quarters where it was less than $1 million, like I didn't see any activity. So we are starting to see some of it pick up, but $140 million, $143 million is still worthy of a lot of questions.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But my point is, money is sitting there.
Yes.
At least it's earning interest, but we want to move people to get it out the door because there was a purpose for all this.
Right, exactly.
And especially once 12/31/2026 is over,
Yeah,
there'll no longer be any linkage to the federal funds. At that
Right.
point, there won't be
exactly.
any reason it shouldn't be moving.
Okay. This is really helpful, and actually, the timing is pretty good right now.
Might be scouring a little bit
We
here.
are, we have new sofa cushions to look at. So, some of us will see you at joint fiscal this summer.
Yes.
And then we'll get you back here next year to talk about what happens after the end of 26 and where we are. When is your final report due to the federal government? Like at the end of March or something?
I believe actually we have to produce it by January 31st.
Oh, okay.
And then if it behaves similarly to the emergency rental assistance funds, we filed our final report, that 30 days after the period of performance ended. And then at some point, now I'm hoping to avoid any type of recapture.
Right.
But with emergency rental assistance too, there's going to be a small, relative to the size of the fund, it's
Yeah.
millions of dollars, unfortunately, but there will be some return to the federal government. But we're waiting on them to tell us how much based on our report, how much we are obligated to send them back. And we filed that last November, I believe, or maybe it was in January. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It was at least 6 months ago.
That's so far ago. That's like a decade ago. All right, Doug, thank you very much.
All right.
This is really helpful. Thank you for the hearing updates. Committee, we have the right day. We are going to right day. Okay. Yes, we're taking a break and then we are going to look at the section of the budget related to dispatch that we just learned about when the Senate did something. So I know we're supposed to start at 2 and some of you folks are here, but we'll need a break. So we'll probably break for about 10 minutes and then we'll try to convene about